Hi and welcome to tutorial 29. Today we're going to be looking at some sounds from Tangerine Dreams 2008 album called Tangram, and they actually released 145 albums and this is their 105th. And now we're going to look at those sounds in detail, starting with what I've labelled as the Tangram Pipe, which is the little ostinato figure, or riff if you like, that's a pipe sort of sound. And we're going to go to the initial setting, and we're going to set up a mono sound, put the mono button in, and we need oscillator 1 to be on an 8-foot pitch. There we are, it's already set at 8 foot, and this needs to be a triangle waveform. So we go across, we don't need any more oscillators here, so we've just got the number 1 in there. And in the filter section, we've got this time a bandpass filter. Now what the bandpass does, if I can just demonstrate that, that's low pass, that's high pass, it's cut everything off. And bandpass is the bit in the middle. It kind of selects a certain amount of frequencies in the middle of the cut-off range, and gives a particularly distinctive sound. We need 12 dB slope on that one, and we need a cut-off of 60. That's somewhere in the middle. There we are. And resonance 39. There we are. And we're going to have a look at the filter envelope now. So the filter envelope amount is plus 33. And what we're looking at is we want to achieve a little, what's sometimes known as a chiff to the sound. That means it lets in the first higher harmonics in the initial part of the sound, because the triangle waveform doesn't have particularly many overtones in it, but we want to capture those overtones right at the beginning of the sound. And we set the attack to 0, the decay to 40, and there you can already hear that chiff type sound happening. Sustain 12. There we are. And release 39. The release just creates a little bit of ambience to the sound. We're now going to look at the amplifier envelope, attack 44. So a bit of a fade into the sound. That's it. Decay 66. There we are. Sustain 38. So that means that the sound sort of dies away a little bit as well. And release 45. There we are, and that's more or less the sound there. Also, going back to this, we need velocity at 0, which I like to set up as the initial setting. And we want quite a bit of reverb on that. So press the reverb in there, time 71. There we are, and length 64. Sorry, level 64, which is kind of a nice even distribution between dry and wet. So there's our sound. So the next sound to appear is the bass sound. Back to the initial setting. And for this we need 2 oscillators. Oscillator 1 on a square wave, and this is going to be at 32 foot. Oops. Let's just reset our initial setting. Oh, that's better. There we go. 32 foot and a square wave. Okay, and we need oscillator 2 to be a 16-foot pitch on a sawtooth setting. This is a classic startup for any kind of bass sound, in actual fact, to use 32-foot square, 16-foot sawtooth. We've mixed those two together there, and now we'll go on to the filter. So 24 dB slope on a low pass filter, and the cutoff is 60, so round about the middle. There we are. Resonance 39. There we are. And key track 64, that's about in the middle. And we're going to have a look at the filter envelope now. Attack 41. We need a bit of a wow to this sound. So 41. In fact, let's put some amount in first of all, then you'll be able to hear the wow. So amount 29. And you can hear that little wow now, can't you? So decay 44. Sustain 0, release 0. And then on the amplifier envelope, attack 0, decay 86. So this means that the sound is going to die away because the sustain level is 0. There we are. Release 0, velocity 0. Also, it's probably handy on a bass sound to have the mono button in as well. So that's our bass sound. And the final bit of the puzzle is in the what I've called the Tangram Vox, which is the kind of ethereal vocal type of effect. And we're going to go back to the initial setting. Make sure ooh. There we are, there's our initial setting. And on here we need oscillator 1 to be on an 8-foot pitch, oscillator 2 to be on an 8-foot pitch. Let's put both of those in there and hear what they sound like. Oscillator 1, pulse width, and the pulse width here is going to be 74. That's 74%. So it's veering away from the hollow triangle sound to a more reedy kind of sound. And we need to set up, in actual fact, some LFO to modulate the oscillators. So LFO 1, oscillators 1 and 2, speed 40, and depth, just a very slight amount here, 11. And that creates that sort of slow vibrato type sound that creates that eerie effect on the vocal. Now we're going to be looking at the filter, and we're going to be using bandpass again. Bandpass filter, 24 dB slope, cutoff 75. There we are. Resonance 55. That emphasises the middly sort of effect on the sound. Key track 47. And onto, we don't need to fiddle with the excuse me, the filter envelope at all. We just need the amplifier envelope because it's got a slow fade in. 72. There we are. Decay 83. Sustain 0. This means that the sound fades out completely. Bit of release time in there as well, 69. And of course the velocity is set to 0. We need to add a little bit of reverb in there, and just a very plain sort of ambient reverb with that. And that's our Vox sound. And then we're going to put all of those together in the track. And another request was the Cars' Let's Go. and I'm going to show you how to get that sound. First of all, we need to go onto an initial setting. There we are. And the first thing to do is we're going to set up an LFO ramp. That's going to affect oscillators 1 and 2. So there's the ramp setting, and it's a little bit like an envelope generator, except it's only got one value, the ramp value. And we're going to apply that to oscillators 1 and 2. And the speed is 61. There we are. And the depth is minus 37. This gives us our dow kind of sound. Now that's affecting the pitch of these oscillators 1 and 2, but in actual fact I'm only going to use oscillator 2, and I'm going to sync oscillator 2 to oscillator 3. Now at the moment it's not quite the sound because we need to fiddle about with oscillators 2 and 3. So oscillator 2 is a square waveform on an 8-foot pitch. That's it. We've synced that to oscillator 3, but even though oscillator 3 isn't audible, we need oscillator 3 to be on a square wave and a 32-foot pitch. And that's pretty much the sound. So we need to use a filter setting, and I haven't really used a high-pass filter before, but you can hear the effect of the high-pass filter there. The cutoff is 47. So it's just kind of emphasising certain frequencies within the range there. Key track 64. And a little bit of reverb. We don't need to fiddle with the filter envelope or the amplifier envelope. And put some reverb in. Time 75. Level 22. And here's our sound. Of course, what I've forgotten to do is set up the wheel, modulation wheel, on a vibrato setting. So let's do that. This is a sine wave, and we need that to apply to, why not all 3 oscillators, that's fine. And now I've forgotten to write down the values of that, but you can fiddle about with the speed and depth to suit.